welcome to Ottawa Experts. I'm your host, Barbara Balfour. Well, the holiday season is upon us, and everywhere we go, we get bombarded with images of sumptuous dinners and happy families and people having way more fun than we are. For those of us facing the holidays alone, grieving the loss of a loved one, or too financially strapped to really participate, it may feel like we're the only ones in the whole world who have nowhere to go. Well, that's simply not true, and here to offer their advice and some practical tools to get you through the holidays and to help you celebrate the holidays your own way are three very special Ottawa experts. First, I'd like to introduce Natasha Sini. Natasha is a clinical social worker in private practice and the founder of Family Therapy, which provides counseling services to children, teens, adults, couples, and families at 5 locations across Ottawa. Welcome back to the show, Natasha.
Thank you, Barbara.
We're so pleased to have you. Next, we are joined by Anne DeBoot, a personal coach who specializes in loss and the founder of Reconnect from Grief. She's a retired nurse and the author of Grief's Abyss, Finding Your Pathway to Peace, as well as an ebook of tips called Good Grief, It's Christmas. Thanks so much for joining us, Anne.
Thank you for having me.
Later in the show, we will be joined by our third guest, Bonnie Elliott, who is a nurse practitioner, psychotherapist, and yoga teacher. She's also a cancer coach with the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation, so stick around to hear from her later. Ladies, what happens when the most wonderful time of the year, and I'm really resisting the urge to sing that out loud right now, what happens when that time of the year is actually anything but wonderful? I know, Natasha, you were telling me earlier that at this time of the year we see more depression, more drunk driving accidents, more suicides, even more domestic violence than any other time of the year. What are we seeing at the holiday season?
We're seeing people stressed out between what they actually can do and the expectations put on them. And we were talking earlier about, no one really tells you to cook that turkey for Christmas, but there is pressure for people to have that Hallmark holiday, beautiful, globy, Christmassy scene, to have the family around the kitchen, and they're just not prepared for it. They're not ready for it. They're not even emotionally ready for it. And they put this pressure on themselves. They feel it's being put on themselves, and they just want to please and make everybody happy.
And Natasha, you're talking about people who are often in the best case scenario, and you're dealing with people who are often at rock bottom, grieving the loss of a loved one in many different instances. What kinds of things are you seeing with this group of people who just don't have the energy to get through this time of year?
Well, it seems that everybody's expectations are pretty high. We had it in our house this year, so it's got to be. They may have children and they assume that the children will be upset if Christmas isn't the same way, and then it's thinking, when you're grieving, you can't think. It's just impossible to make the connection. I like to say it's grief brain. It's almost as if there's a split. So to make those decisions that you need to be able to go into planning, they just aren't there. So the person may think that they're coping, but they are not. And I like to tell them, ask for help, plan. In fact, now is a good time to get a calendar out and have a look to see what's coming up. What is it you feel that you'll be able to do? Are you going to do all the Christmas shopping? Are you going to have the big family meals? Think about it now. Talk with the family members, because that's the only way you're going to know what their expectations are of you. And it may be that you do a potluck or change a tradition this year.
Do you find in your experience that people are pretty understanding, or is there some guilt and some boundaries that need to be laid down?
I roll. You know what, it's really hard to make boundaries and changes. People don't want changes. And I mean, you're talking about somebody with grief. The first year that you've lost somebody, especially if it's very recent, you're not thinking. And this would not be the year to put on the Christmas dinner, because you're already so overwhelmed. Yeah. And so it is, like you said, reaching out, and I think almost saying to people, I can't do Christmas this year. It's too much. I want to participate in Christmas, but somebody else has to host it. You can't even come and cook at my own house. Can we please do it somewhere else, so that at least if I want to come, I can come?
Yeah.
And if I need to go home because it's too much, or I'm just not feeling up to it, then I can retreat, go back home, and it's quiet, and I don't have to deal with the guilt that I couldn't host it, or I had to kick everybody out of the house, or I just want to cry today.
Yeah. And it would be so lovely in the ideal world if that's how people thought. But even in grief, they know they're grieving, but they just can't bring themselves. Well, it'll spoil everybody's Christmas. So it's adding another layer of guilt onto
Nobody
them.
wants to be the Grinch.
That's right.
Well, I don't really think it's even wanting to be the Grinch. It's even putting it out there and just say, look, you know what? I can't do this. You know, if this is the holidays, whatever holiday it is, I can't do this year. And I need to put it out there but we can't talk about what's difficult to talk about. We're so afraid of offending people. No one's going to understand. And the guilt is huge, because guilt is, I've done something wrong, right?
I've let everybody else down.
Exactly. And sometimes we have to be, I'll use the word selfish, even though it's not selfish, it's self-preservation, and just say, this is too much for me. We will get through this. It's okay. Even if you had to do, you know, and I sometimes joke, I'm going to make craft dinner some days. That's going to be the holiday meal because I'm overwhelmed. You have to set limits on what you can do.
And it all comes back down to self-care, which is something I remind my clients they need to be able to do. Because if you don't even want to get out of bed and get dressed, how are you going to be able to deal with Christmas? So it's recognizing those limits and being honest with yourself. So I at least attempt to get the self-care part in as well.
What I find really interesting about the world that we live in today is that there's this interesting juxtaposition where we've never been more connected, but we've also never felt more alone. And so it seems like we have all these friends and these well-wishers on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, but in real life there may be very few people in our lives that we can count on. I'd like to hear from you, Anne, as to whether you would encourage your clients who are going through a particular difficult time to break out of that internet and Facebook rut and go see people face to face. Is that healthier?
Oh, absolutely, because it's so easy to sort of hide behind your screen, isn't it? And think that you've got a wealth of friends. You're getting your bonding, your oxytocins from, oh, this person liked my picture, or oh no they didn't, so I'm going to have a really crappy day. So put it away.
I know people like that.
And they're not even grieving, I'm sure. And I think at the funeral you have all these just let me know what it is you need, but when you're grieving you have no idea what it is you need. This would be a good time to ask, or even if people, friends and family, could be educated that at the time of the funeral, that's not a good time to be saying that, other than, I'm there for you, I'll give you a call. Call that person. And if the person who is grieving can reach out to friends and family, even if it's just to go to have a coffee and have a chat, I really need to talk about this, and pick a family member that they feel that they could trust, so that they're not wallowing in it, they're getting out and expressing it. Would you agree?
I would agree with that. I mean, we had a tragedy. One of our neighbors lost their child, and the day of the funeral, I went over with our children. Our children were much younger than the boy who died, the young man who died. And she wrote back to me, and she said to me even years later, that was the most uplifting thing that could have happened that day, that you showed up with all of your children to give us something, and just to bring the kids into the house on a day that I would be grieving and burying my son.
And here's the thing that I think we're all guilty of. When we have a friend or someone in our midst who's going through a difficult time, we tend to back away too much. We tend to give them a bit too much space, and then they end up feeling more isolated and alone.
Absolutely. I'm sure it's a part, well, look at all the people that showed up at the funeral. They're all going to be there. They're going to be overwhelmed. And they may very well be for that first week or two. But then everybody gets busy and goes back to their life, and there is nobody there. Or they may be one of these very private people that does push help away. And that just helps to give them the loneliness will come on from that.
We actually have a caller on the line, Kelly. Kelly, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Kelly. Did you have a question for our guests?
Yeah, I did. It's a little bit personal, but I thought I might as well give it a shot, right?
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, yeah. So I recently moved away from my hometown for a job, like to work, and I don't really know anyone in the city, and with December coming up, I'm feeling like disconnected and distant from my family and friends back home, but I'm not able to like travel back this year for the holidays. And I'm just wondering if you have any suggestions or advice or anything on how I can still have a good holiday season even though I'm basically alone.
Natasha, what do you think?
Well, that's a really good point, Kelly. I mean, because when you're in a new city, I mean, how long have you been here for? Just a couple of months, did you say?
Yeah, it's been about 4 months.
4 months. Okay, so I would ask you, what is it that you like to do, and what's meaningful for you? Because I mean, because what may be meaningful for me may not be meaningful for you. Like, do you like to go and listen to people singing carols? Would you like to go see like a Charlie Brown Christmas? Is going to see the Nutcracker important to you?
Yeah.
Like, what do you like?
Anything that kind of just like puts me in the holiday season. So the things that you said, you know, like if there's like a Christmas market or something like that, or, you know, I mean, the main thing is spending time with family, but I mean, I guess I'll have to think of other things rather than that. But anything, I guess, holiday related.
Sorry, Anne, how do you counsel your clients to find meaningful connections at this time of year?
Well, I was going to say, if you're in the immediate parts of grief, then it's probably a good time just to sort of stay with yourself and grieve. Don't be in too much of a rush to get out. But if you are in that stage where you're feeling okay, then that's the best time to go out and support numerous organizations, because sometimes helping somebody else will help you out of that situation.
So Natasha, would you counsel Kelly to get out of the house as much as she can?
I was actually going to suggest a couple of things. Getting out of the house and giving is a great way to make you feel connected. The other thing I was going to suggest is, you know, does your family, are they computer savvy that you could Skype with them for a while so that you could eat dinner together? Right, so I don't know, Kelly, if you're still listening, but maybe that's a possibility, is that you know, they can set up their computer and you can have a virtual Christmas, either opening gifts with them or having a meal with them.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good idea. We were planning on that too, but you know, the season is like a month long, so it can be
Kelly, we're just about to head to break, but when we come back, we'll get back to your question. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We have part two.
The following program is brought to you by Rogers Anyplace TV. Enjoy exclusive content for free. Visit RogersAnyplaceTV.com.
Join world leaders as they share innovative solutions for the pressing issues the world faces. Watch the One Young World Ottawa Summit exclusively on Rogers TV.
I have a job for you.
What the? I'll be safer on my own. You won't last 1 hour without me.
The only way Bryce and Kincaid don't make it. So they kill each other first. I want everything on Jimmy Logan.
I'll know how they move the money. You Logans mustn't be as simple-minded as people say. People say that?
This week on Ottawa Eats on Rogers TV, we have a special treat. We get a taste of some of the most amazing gelato you have ever seen. Awarded one of the top 3 gelato shops in the Americas at the Gelato World Tour in Chicago, this place will not disappoint, and it's located right here. This week, Ottawa Eats on Rogers TV, Stella Luna Gelato. Get your sweet tooth ready.
Hi, I'm Kathy Donovan, host of Refresh Your Passion, a speaker series for people who want to do more, be more, have more, and share themselves more in the world. Refresh Your Passion, only on Rogers TV.
Hi, welcome back to Ottawa Experts. I'm your host, Barbara Balfour. We're actually on the phone right now with Kelly, one of our viewers who's looking for ways to connect with other people this holiday season. Kelly, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thanks so much for staying on the line. I know both of you ladies had some helpful suggestions for resources that she can access this holiday season. I know, Anne, you mentioned something about Ladies Who Lunch.
Oh yes, there's a Facebook group, Kelly, called Ladies Who Lunch. If you go on the Facebook and Google it, it'll pop up, and just let them know what it is. You're new in town, what your interests may be. There's oodles of groups looking for volunteers to help with. There's endless projects on there.
And also there's meetup groups. I don't know if you've been on meetup.com. There's like the Ottawa social groups. There's groups for young ladies in the West End. You know, I don't know, Kelly, are you physically active? Do you like sports?
I do. I don't do much of it because of work and stuff, but I mean, I do like it.
Right, because I was going to suggest, because there are, like, on the meetup groups, there are also, you know, things that you do enjoy doing. So if you like going hiking, or you like going cross-country skiing, even with the Ladies Who Lunch, there's a Ladies Who Sport, and I think sometimes they organize going cross-country skiing or going for walks. And it's not all just retired ladies, it's young women as well. So I think those are both great places to meet, because I know the Ladies Who Lunch are very friendly.
Very active as well.
Those are great tips, ladies. Kelly, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. I guess I really like the idea of like a balance of maybe not forcing myself to go out and do things, but being okay with being at home, but being okay with going out as well too.
I hear you. Thanks so much for joining us and for watching.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Ladies, I want to talk about toxic family members and people who are estranged from their families during the holiday season. Now, these are people who are alone this season because they chose to be. What's unique about their situation? What do you think, Natasha?
That's a challenging one, because if you are a child of a toxic family, you pull back and then you try to actually make your own family from your friends or co-workers. So those people may not be so alone, and they may not actually so badly feeling the loss, because they may have come to realization they can't go back home because mom or dad or stepmom or stepdad are just not accepting, and it's too difficult to go and spend time with people who were that unkind to you.
Yeah, and do any of your clients come in with that double whammy of having lost the only person that they felt ever really cared about them and not having any other family members to turn to?
Absolutely. They may have been the caregiver, and all of a sudden that person has died, so they don't feel needed. So it's, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? But also there's the other part when a family member dies. Then there's all the sort of the rivalry amongst the siblings, and they can get quite heated arguments over the house and the contents, so they can fall out and not speak to each other. So that can be part of why somebody isn't going home for the holidays, because it's just too dysfunctional because of those reasons.
And how would you counsel them to protect themselves from those kinds of situations?
Well, they have to make a decision. Do they want to forgive what's gone on? Do they want to be the one to reach out? Or has it just hurt them so much that they just can't let go? Then it may be that they just have to let, you know, bygones be bygones and let it rest. They have that choice, and attempt to make family and friends where they feel welcomed and feel safe.
We have another caller on the line. Michelle, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Did you have a question for our experts?
I do. So this will be the first Christmas that my new sister-in-law is joining our family, which is very exciting. They have a new baby, so that's another big change, but it's also going to be her first Christmas after losing her mom. So even though we're not yet very close, as it is a new marriage, I wanted to know what's the best way to support her during this holiday season without making her feeling awkward or necessarily even directly bringing it up. What's the best way to make sure that she has an enjoyable Christmas season?
Well, I would say address the elephant in the room, Michelle. Let her know that this is going to be her first Christmas without her mum, and that new baby is going to be a glaring reminder of her wanting to share this precious bundle with her mom and her mom not being there. So be aware that it's going to be a major trigger. It's part of the year of firsts, and unfortunately Christmas is the biggest year of firsts. So if you can talk to her and prepare her that it could even trigger the grief as fresh as when mom died, I think that would be serving her a lot better than denying it and just putting on your smiley face. And I think you will support her better if you can just prepare her. You can be gentle, you don't have to be blunt about it.
Natasha, do you have any tips to offer on how Michelle can extend help to people around her who need it without making them feel awkward or like a charity case?
Well, I think, like you said, Anne, is to actually talk about it. And you may want to have the conversation. I don't know how far away your sister-in-law lives, but even if you have tea with her or coffee with her before she comes over the house, and just say, you know, I know this year might be difficult for you, and let me know if there's anything I can do, because your mother died this year, and I couldn't imagine what it'd be like to miss your mother. You know, try not to fill in the blanks, but put that out there. I know your mother is dead, or your mother's gone, however you want to word it. What do you need from me as your sister-in-law and your new family this time of year? How can we help you?
Does that answer your question, Michelle?
It does. Thank you so much, ladies. That's very helpful, and I'll definitely employ that advice.
Thanks for joining us. Have a great night. And you came out with a couple of books on grief, and let's talk about them. One of them, you actually brought it with us, and maybe we can pull up the image of the cover on the screen. It's called Grief's Abyss, Finding Your Pathway to Peace. Where can we find this book?
This book is readily available at Indigo in Barhaven, Singing Pebbles, drawing blanks, in Green Spirit in Manotick, and it's also available via the Ottawa Public Library.
Sounds like it's widely available.
And it's on all the Amazon coms, UKs and CAs.
Perfect. And you also have this ebook that you compiled.
I do, yes.
Good Grief, It's Christmas, 12 tips to help people get through the holidays.
Yeah, just
and that's available free, right?
Common sense tips to sort of get them through. Yeah, that's available on my website, or you can Google it. Apparently it comes up.
It does come up.
Good Grief, It's Christmas. So what are some of the key points that you make in those 12 tips?
Well, now would be a perfect time to get your calendar out and have a look to see where the parties are, which parties you want to go to. Be aware that guilt could come up, that the person you loved is no longer with you. So why should you have a good time when, they are dead? So be aware of that and the guilt, and just allowing yourself to have fun and knowing that being in grief, you need to have some laughter to sort of lighten and balance the emotional part of who you are as a human. Self-care is very, very important for all of us, not just somebody who's grieving. Watch the alcohol at parties, because your emotions are pretty up and down anyway. We all have a little bit of alcohol to let us loosen up a little bit. Well, you don't want to...
Deal with Uncle Jack at Christmas time.
Exactly. You don't want to loosen up too much and then find that you're very emotional and unable to control it. Go to a party with a friend and have a secret, I'm going to rub my head when I need to go. Speak to the host. Let her know that you're going to come, but if you need to leave, don't get upset if I don't come and say goodbye. If I just disappear, it's too much, but I'll gladly come.
So planning lots of escapes.
Oh, absolutely. And the Christmas, the financial part, and the headache
That's a big one.
of planning all those gifts.
Do a lot of people find themselves, turning to their credit cards a little bit too much to get through the holiday season?
I think we all do. Yeah. We're all guilty of that, aren't we? So this
January,
might be.
You get your bill. Oh my gosh.
People overextend themselves. I mean, there was we'll go talk about Facebook, a mother who wrote, "Help, what am I supposed to do? My child gave me a 12-page list for Santa." And so when we talk about the expectations and the pressure that mother is already feeling that her child's written this long, endless list, and as opposed to saying, you know, honey, what are your top 3 things you'd like to get from Santa this year?
Yeah.
You know, to keep it in perspective, and we buy into this consumerism that we have to, if I don't give you a present, that must mean I'm a heartless person, I'm bad. And as opposed to, it's actually not the gifts, but the quality of the time that we spend together.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I've actually found myself in an awkward situation where I used to really go nuts at Christmas time, and I would buy gifts for everybody, and I found it wasn't sustainable, and it wasn't rewarding over time. And so I stopped, and people would still give me gifts, and I felt terrible about accepting them. Sometimes people just don't understand.
But also can also be that's their language of love, to give gifts. I mean, because it's interesting, because if you've ever read the book, The 5 Love Languages, gift giving is one of them. Yeah. I have one of my children, he does not want to receive presents. He's so hard to give to because he's like, no, Mommy, I don't want any presents.
He's just picky.
No, he wants, for him, it's quality time. So he really doesn't want a present. It's not about pickiness, right? Where it's interesting because well, I think everybody likes getting gifts on one hand, but for me, quality time is the most important thing for me, yet I like showing my love also by gift giving. It doesn't have to be $1 million present, but if at least I could buy you something, look, I saw this mug, I got it for you, I would do that, because that's one of the ways I show love. So it's hard for people sometimes to relate to, well, how do I show my love? Because all I know how to do is show it by buying you something, as opposed to how someone else receives love.
Are tangible things important in the grieving process, Anne?
I think when you're grieving, I don't think it even computes in your mind, and that's why I say this might be a year where you choose just to buy one family member a gift and perhaps do a secret Santa rather than stressing about buying everybody in the family a gift when you're grieving.
It's too overwhelming. I mean, you're so disconnected when you're in that grief, especially if it's fairly recent. And even, I'm sure you know, even if you are prepared that someone's going to die, you're never really, you can never prepare enough for the actual loss of never being able to tell that person again, I love you, or hold their hand.
Absolutely. We're almost at the end of our time together. Anne, where can our viewers find you?
They can find me at Reconnect from Grief. If they would like some one-on-one coaching, I offer free discovery sessions because not everybody is coachable.
Thank you so much. We're just at the end of our time. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back after the break. It's Carla from Carla in the Kitchen. Join me every week as I give away some of my top secret recipes. These smell so delicious. We'll see you in the kitchen.
Your mouth can do a lot of amazing things. And your mouth can save a life.
Hi, I'm Tom Wong. I'm just one of close to 1,000 Canadians in search of a stem cell match. We need your help.
A simple swab is all you need to register on the National Stem Cell Database. You could be the one to save a life. Find the hero in you.
With NHL Center Ice, you get a premium ticket to the games you want every night of the season. With up to 37 out-of-market games a week to choose from, you'll get more goals, more saves, more non-stop action from the teams you love. NHL Center Ice, part of the Super Sports Pack. For only $35.95 a month, Rogers customers get all this. Order through your remote or call 1-888-ROGERS-1 today.
My name is Heather Bracken, and I'm a volunteer. I'm on the senior end, I'll call it, and to be able to work with 20-somethings and 30-somethings and whatever it's great. I think it helps to keep you young. My opinion, the most important thing is to give back to the community, but I guess because I have so much fun with it, it doesn't feel like giving, it's more like receiving.
Hi, and welcome back to Ottawa Experts. I'm your host, Barbara Balfour. And on tonight's show, we're talking about how to celebrate the holiday season when you're feeling blue, grieving a loss, or strapped for cash. I'd like to introduce a new guest who's just joining us in the studio tonight. Bonnie Elliott is a cancer coach with the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation. She helps individuals living with cancer and their families regain control of their lives following a cancer diagnosis. Bonnie is also a nurse practitioner, psychotherapist, and yoga teacher. Welcome to the show, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us. Bonnie, tell me a little bit about what it is that you do and how the coping mechanisms for people who are going through cancer or grieving someone who has lost their battle with cancer might be especially important to talk about tonight.
Especially around the holiday time, right? Because when you have a, especially if you have a new diagnosis just before Christmas, or you've lost someone in the previous year, sometimes the usual ways that you cope with things don't seem as accessible. So in coaching, we help people to reconnect with some of the things, the tools that they use, and maybe learn some new tools and new skills to find some of the resources in the community that they might want, but also to get that confidence back in themselves, and to come up with a plan.
Because it's the big C. It's a really scary word, and I believe the stats are 1 in 3. 1 in 3 of us.
1 in 2 now.
1 in 2.
Yeah,
that's
according
shocking.
to the last Health Canada.
We actually have a caller on the line who is close to someone who's dealing with cancer. Ralph, are you with us tonight?
Yes, I am.
Thanks so much for joining us. Did you have a question for our experts?
Yes, I did. I work in the government, and one of my close co-workers, someone in their family just got diagnosed with cancer. And we all love Christmas time, and while I know what it's like to lose an old parent in ripe old age, cancer is different, and I'm wondering how I can help as a colleague.
That's a great question. And I'm getting more of those questions at work from people to, how do I, it used to be people didn't talk about it, right? You had a colleague who had cancer, and they'd kind of go off, and maybe they'd come back and maybe they wouldn't. But now people are working with cancer, and our colleagues are often the people we see the most. So how can you help a colleague? I think the biggest thing is don't forget about them. Sometimes when someone's not at work, they kind of out of sight, out of mind, and find ways to reach out, and don't assume that they're too busy or that they want to be alone. Be present to them, and maybe organize it amongst your team so that you're not all contacting the person the same day, but that maybe one person on a Monday will reach out with a text or offer concrete, tangible things like come and shovel the snow or drive them to an appointment or
right, because so often people will say, let me do if there's anything, let me know if there's anything I can do for you, and you're going through some of the most stressful times in your life. You have absolutely no idea what you need. What do you think, Natasha?
Or you don't even have time to actually call. I mean, even I like the one, if the co-workers could organize it together, even meals. I mean, that is the biggest thing. I mean, I don't know whether your colleague has children or not, and if you can come and prepare, give them homemade meals. That's such a godsend. It really, it's something that everybody needs food, and it's welcome, because let me tell you, when my mother was dying, having meals that were prepared for me were so wonderful.
And check with them, because sometimes people get 10 lasagnas. Just find out what people eat in the family.
Does that answer your question, Ralph, or did you have any follow-up questions?
Yes. To offer an apple crumble or some Christmas cookies or something. Yes, I think random acts of kindness really help.
Or even just the driving part too, because that's another thing. I mean, when you have a loved one with cancer, or you're the person who has cancer, you don't have the energy or the focus to be able to drive yourself to those appointments. It is exhausting. So if someone could drive them to some of the appointments and drop them right off the door at the doctor's appointment or at the hospital, so they don't have to walk through the snow, and then you park the car and you go in with them, that really helps them a lot.
Okay, thanks a lot.
And let them know you miss them at work, and that their job's being taken care of, but that they're missed, and that when they come back, you'll be happy to see them again.
Does that help, Ralph?
Yes, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Merry Christmas.
Bonnie, you actually have a very personal story where you lost your mother to cancer.
I did, yeah. Well, my mom had cancer and then died a few years later, but so I have this she died a couple of years ago before Christmas, so I have a scarf that she made, and in the, you know, it's a cold time of year, and there's something about remembering her, and she loved the color green, and at this time of year, I really connect with her that way. It's like carrying a little piece of her around with me.
And so she knitted it.
She did, and I think it's important when you've lost someone to be able to talk about them and remember them in the holidays. You know, sometimes people kind of walk on tiptoes. I think we talked about that earlier. You know, they're afraid to talk about the person who's died, but oftentimes it's nice to have some kind of tangible thing that reminds you of them.
Yeah, we did talk about that earlier in the show, that sometimes it can be so small and yet so meaningful. Yeah. And you also brought in a Christmas tree ornament as well to show us.
Yes, so one of my colleagues made this. It says hope on it, and we have a hope tree at work that gets put up every year. And it's funny because I'm usually, Christmas tree this time, you know, but actually when I walked in today and it had been put up, and I read all the different messages that people had written about their hopes for the holidays and their hopes for their loved ones. And they were really, you know, I think it was really meaningful for them to write them and to put them on the tree, but it was also really meaningful for me to read them. And,
Natasha, do you remember what it was like to have your first Christmas without your mom?
It was really different. All that year first, I mean, to remember, to think about it, to know that, you know, I can't go visit her anymore, she can't come home. Even doing simple things like she used to make Christmas cake, so now I'm the one who makes it for my father. So it's all that things that just pass on, and it's really hard because there are things you want to say or things that you're used to doing, and that emptiness you have where I can't do that anymore. That's gone, and there's no way to replace it. But it's okay, you have those memories. And that's the other thing to remember, is the hope that you do have those memories. And just because someone died doesn't mean the relationship with them terminates. You develop a different form of relationship with your family member who's died.
Was that true for you, Bonnie, after your mom passed away?
Oh, totally. Yeah, people live inside of us for sure, and that memory. But when I work, I at the foundation, I facilitate a bereavement group, and you know, we talk about sort of, you know, preparing for the holidays that way, and knowing those things that are they're kind of bittersweet, right? Because it's, you want to be reminded of the person, but at the same time, you don't necessarily want to be blindsided by hearing that song at the mall, or by, you know, walking through and being reminded, you know, picking up the ornament to put on the tree and remembering that, you know, in front of like 20 people or whatever. So the more you can prepare, the more you can sort of say, okay, you know, this is what's coming. This is what I need to do to be.
And not avoiding it, right? Not avoiding our pain, because too often, we were talking about this earlier about when someone dies, we don't know what to do. But I think it's because we've become so avoidant of actually dealing with our emotions. So to know that you are going to feel pain, and it's going to be okay, it's going to last for a finite period, and you will get through it.
Yeah, it can be tough to find ways to connect meaningfully with people when you're not in the best of moods, you're deeply unhappy, and everything around you is shiny and happy and sparkly.
Christmas is a time, it can be a time of excess, you know. Sometimes people say, you know, I go out in the mall and it's just, you know, dollars and shopping and stuff, and so finding ways to simplify that. Sometimes it's, you know, maybe making things or shopping online, or, you know, avoiding the things that you find just too much during the holidays and focusing on the things that are important to you.
Natasha, what do you think about putting together like an emergency holiday kit, a solo holiday kit, like gathering all the things that you like, small indulgences, books, movies, music?
I think that's important. Actually, that would almost be something that Kelly could do, our first caller. Like I was thinking of that, like what do you want to do Christmas Day? Because you have either 1 or 2 or 3 days off, depending on what your work schedule is. What would it be like to do things that were important to you? Like for myself, I mentioned earlier the Charlie Brown Christmas. Right? Do you want to watch that movie? Do you like listening to that, you know, that CD? You know, because it is important. That's called self-care, right? It isn't overindulgence and overeating or something, but doing things that remind you of the special moments that are important to you, because that's what really the holidays are supposed to be about. Are the memories you've created with people that have meaning to you?
So it's a care package for yourself.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
It's so easy for self-care to fall off the rails during the holidays. You know, you're staying up late, you're not eating the same way, you're not exercising, you're drinking a little more, you know.
Or you're staying at someone else's house and sleeping on a futon in their living room.
Well, that brings me to my next question. What about, I believe the term for it is it compassion fatigue? If you're the caregiver and you're already so run down and the very reason for your existence is not around anymore, what are some of the things you need to be mindful of?
We see a lot of really exhausted caregivers at the foundation, you know, whether they're actively caregiving or whether they've lost someone. And I think it's, like you said, it's sometimes hard when you're feeling so compassion fatigued to even know what you need. You know, you're tired and you're just so used to going and doing things for the person. So, you know, breathe, self-care, you know, asking for help.
Well, I think too often also with people who are caregivers, they actually no longer have themselves in the picture. They're just a function. They're a nurse, let's say, right? They forget that they actually need to care for themselves because they're on just overdrive. So they do get so depleted.
What about workplace stress?
Well, it's interesting because, you know, I've always worked in healthcare, and, you know, Christmas is a challenging time of year, I think, in a lot of workplaces, but I think particularly when you're working with people who are struggling at Christmas. You know, sometimes I think my kids have gotten not always the best of me by Christmas Eve. I'm kind of stumbling into the holidays because I've been, you know.
You must be drained by the time you get home.
Yeah. I mean, it's rewarding, it's fulfilling, but I think it's, you know, and I think workplaces need to think about that, you know, like, you know, because it's a time of year where a lot of people take holidays. So, you know, you kind of have skeleton staff, and that's when the crisis happens sometimes, you know, so. Yeah.
And the other part is also, it's hard, as a therapist, it's hard to have a difficult session. And I wonder if you find this too, that, you know, there's like a crisis or someone's dying, so you've had a difficult session, and then on the way out the door, you're like, oh, well, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year's, and they're like, but we're all dying here. So it's that juxtaposition of, we just had something really intense, the diagnosis of cancer, how do I cope with this? And you're going to wish me Merry Christmas? Like, that doesn't sit with me. So it is...
It's kind of insensitive.
And there's a bit of guilt, you know, it's like, do I go home and to my happy Christmas and my happy holiday when other people are struggling? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, to be understanding that, you know, it isn't always a happy time for people. There are many people who are going to be sad this holidays. And you can still, I think in some ways, you can find a way to say, you know, season's greetings.
We're just about to go to break, but when we come back, I want to hear more about that, maybe touch on financial stress as well. This holiday season. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Johnny wanted to go back home. It was 1,000 kilometers away. They forced him to go to the Indian residential school. More than 150,000 of us children had to go. They wanted to change us.
Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name.
Hallowed be your name.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done.
Thy will be done. Kill the Indian and the child. It's been called cultural genocide. I survived residential school. My brother Johnny did not.
Chani Wenjack was one of thousands of children who died due to Canada's residential school system. More than 80,000 survivors and their families still live with its legacy today.
No, I never smoked any. Sure, I smoked a bit, but it was more your mom who was into it. Pot grows naturally, but it won't help you grow as a person.
Talking cannabis with your teen can be learned. Download our free brochure.
You know what? Poison ivy grows naturally, but it's not good for you, is it?
Find the answers you need at drugfreekidscanada.org.
Welcome back to Ottawa Experts. I'm your host, Barbara Balfour. We just had a caller who didn't want to go on the air, but she had a question for our experts. She's a healthcare worker, and all her clients are going through a really difficult time this time of year, and she's wondering what your tips are to her as a colleague in the industry, how she can go about comforting them.
I think it's really important just to stay where your client is, you know, to accept where they are, to empathize with them, to have sympathy for them, and not to have to make them feel they have to be anything different than what they are. To just say, you know, I know this is really hard. It breaks my heart to see, you know, it breaks your heart to see that this is such a hard time for you this year.
I agree. There's no magic words. You know, it's often about just understanding where they're at and also looking at what's helped them in previous situations, you know, like maybe in another time in their life they were going through something else. What kind of strategies did they use to get through that? You know, we tend to see people in crisis and maybe we forget too that they have lots of ways of coping that they may not remember in that particular moment, you know. So helping them to connect with resources, helping them to use some of the tools that they have and to stay balanced, you know.
As someone who's also a healthcare worker, what sort of things have you done to try and protect yourself, you know, and keep your energy and keep your good mood at the end of the day?
Well, I teach yoga.
Yeah, yoga's a good one.
To breathe, you know, I breathe at regular intervals during the day. And I laugh and I have good people in my life. And I think, reminding yourself that you can't fix everybody and you can't save everybody, but that you can do things, you know, you can meet people where they're at, like you said, and you can help people to connect with the resources that they have in their lives.
Any tips you wanted to share?
For keeping yourself be balanced?
Yeah.
I think it's really important to find activities that actually revive you, right? Because, I mean, we can go home and watch mindless TV, but that's going to actually be exhausting. Yoga is a great example, right? Maybe get outside, get some fresh air, exercise, reading, warm baths. I mean, my thing I do is I take care of my plants around the house. Just that little bit of greenery to revive my own spirits.
Sometimes the simplest things are the most effective, and you don't need a lot of money.
No.
But that's a great segue to my next question, where I wanted to talk about money, or the lack thereof, in many of our lives. You know, how do you deal with the financial stress? How can you plan for it so that your January credit card bill isn't a total shock?
I think it's actually to make up exactly what you said, to make a plan for it, to make some boundaries for yourself. Don't feel compelled that you have to buy everything for everybody. Think of what would be meaningful to somebody, stick to a budget, and then don't feel guilty that you don't have $6 million. None of us do.
What do you think?
Put away the credit cards before you go shopping and use the money that you have, if you can, you know, put out cash and the gift of experience. You know, sometimes, I mean, I've talked to parents that thought their kids wanted a whole list of things, and then they said, well, what if we did this trip together, you know, and their kids were like, yeah, I want to spend time with you guys, you know. Like, sometimes we assume that things have to cost a lot, and, you know.
Bonnie, you've got some events coming up at the Ottawa Regional Cancer Foundation.
Yeah. So the big thing, I mean, our main thing is individual coaching, and we offer up to 5 hours of free coaching to people living with cancer and their caregivers and families. So, and that can be a real useful thing to.
And anyone's eligible for that?
Yeah, at any place along the cancer diagnosis. They don't have to be recently diagnosed, or they can also be dealing with advanced cancer or even bereavement. So,
okay.
And then we also have a couple programs coming up. We have an exercise program for men. So it's a kind of a bonding thing, and that starts in January. It's a couple times a week with a personal trainer. We have a caregiver workshop coming up. We have a retreat called After the Bell for women who have recently gone through a cancer diagnosis. And we also have Grounded, which is we have a registered dietitian who works with us and does a lot of different nutrition programs. She sees people one-on-one, and she has some really fun workshops.
Are these events all free of charge?
Some of them are cost recovery, and some of them are no cost.
Well. Yeah. And how can people find out about these events?
They can go to our website at www.ottawacancer.ca. And the last thing I wanted to mention is we have, we'd like to hear from people about what they need for in terms of cancer care. So we have a survey called What Matters to You, and people can go onto our website and fill it. There's an incentive. You can win a free nutrition workshop, but we really want to hear from people about what their needs are in terms of cancer. So if you've had anyone who's had cancer touch their life, whether it's themselves directly or somebody in their life.
So wonderful resources for people who are battling the big C over the holiday season.
And it really touches all of us in one way or the other, whether it's a coworker or a friend or someone you've lost. So
interesting program that you mentioned that I picked up on. You mentioned an exercise program for men, and that got me thinking about how men and women handle the holidays differently. Natasha, what's your perspective on that?
I think women tend to feel they have to do everything themselves, right? Decorate the house, go get the shopping. We could ask some of the men, how much do you do for the holidays? Did you actually buy a present for anyone besides me? Or did you even buy a present for your wife? So it's very different. Women tend to be caregivers and they assume everything and they don't actually ask for help. And that really needs to change. It's too much for some, especially working mothers and mothers too, women who work. It's too much to put on your plate.
What do you think, Bonnie?
I mean, I think it's different. That's not the case for all men, but I do think overall women are doing the bulk of a little bit more of the caregiving and the shopping and the holiday stuff, and it's always good to sometimes people haven't told their partner how they can help, or sometimes we're guilty of it as women, sometimes just thinking that we're super moms and that we can do it all, and it's like sometimes you have to communicate and be prepared that someone else may do it not quite the same way that you do.
And that's certainly fine too.
Yeah.
It's hard not to notice how civility kind of goes down over the holidays. People not letting each other in traffic, cutting each other off, flipping the bird, losing their tempers. A few people have mentioned that to me. How do you stay cool, stay grounded when you're out and about running errands and not letting someone else ruin your day in the holiday rush?
I go to yoga before I go shopping, so that I'm like, Merry Christmas, But it's true, people are, I just figure they're stressed,
Yeah, let it be. If someone's in a rush, you certainly go ahead of me. The other part is to learn how to manage your anger. But it's not just your anger, but all your emotions, right? To learn how to let it go, don't hold on to it. And sometimes somebody's rush has nothing to do with you. So just let it, all I can control is myself and my reactions. I can't control someone else's behavior.
Natasha, you mentioned some resources for our viewers to take note of tonight, some emergency contact numbers.
Yes, and hopefully I can have them up on the screen. So because holidays can be a terribly stressful time, there's the distress line to call, there's resources for women and anybody in domestic violence, and also there was the Youth Service Bureau as well. Because over the holidays, tensions flare up, domestic violence does increase, you may need to leave a difficult situation, there may be somebody who has a drinking issue or an alcohol issue, and to reach out to contact those resources so they can help you cope with these difficult situations, or if you're even just lonely.
I worked in the newsroom many years ago on the police desk, and I was very surprised to see that all the domestic violence shelters were overflowing at this time of year. And I think part of the reason for that is that family members who are ordinarily out and about doing their own thing, going to school, going to work, are all suddenly trapped under one roof with nowhere to hide, and tempers flare.
Yeah, for sure. It brings things to a head sometimes.
Well, we have a few minutes left until the end of the show. Did you have any final thoughts that you wanted to share with our viewers, Bonnie?
About the holidays in general.
The holidays in general, and getting through it. And
remember the simple things. Remember the things. Sometimes, we have all these traditions, and last year we did this and this and this and this, and so we have to do it again. And sometimes, taking a moment to take stock of those and what's really meaningful, and what are you really getting out of it, and and if what's your goal. So if your goal is to spend time with your family, and to relax so that you go back to work in January, you know,
Relaxed,
rested and
refreshed.
refreshed. What's going to accomplish that goal? And maybe it's not going to 10 parties, maybe it's going to 5 parties. And
or maybe it's going to 0 parties.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Or maybe it's staying home in pajamas. I know one family, their goal for Christmas is to do chocolate fondue in their pajamas. That's really important to them.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah. It's low key, something easy to do. And I think too often we have this belief that we have to have more is better. And it isn't always better. Keeping it simple and what's really important to you. And actually, if your children are old enough, ask them what things, you know, give them choices. You know, here's A, B, C, or D. Which ones are important to you? So that the kids can participate, because this is about making memories, and this is what your children are going to remember about you and your family.
You also mentioned earlier, Natasha, about the importance of keeping the routine, not just for yourself, but also for your kids, making sure that they've got their favorite stuffy and their snacks, and respecting bedtimes, even though they may be really excited to spend time with grandma, whom they haven't seen in a while. That's even more important than usual over the holiday season.
Especially if you're not at home. All right, I mean, it really is. Children thrive on routine, and actually adults do as well. So trying to keep things as regular as possible. So yes, some children have no problem staying up, other children do. So you have to know your child's temperament, and you have to be respectful that if you want your child to be happy and calm and be able to enjoy the holidays as well, not have a meltdown, that overfeeding your child, overstimulating your child, you're going to look for a meltdown, because even adults will have a meltdown after a while.
Any thoughts on that, Bonnie?
I agree, you know, having some structure and some routine and stuff. And also just, you know, if there's someone in your life that you're worried about this Christmas, say something, you know, reach out to them and even just let them know that you're thinking about them, or, you know, that it's not, it can be a wonderful time of year, but it can be a challenging time of year for a lot of people. So.
Should you follow up if you get rebuffed the first time around?
Definitely, yeah. Try like at least 3 times. Yeah.
At least 3 times. Does that sound like a good formula to you?
It does. Yeah. And get some fresh air too. Get off the TV, not too much video gaming, and actually get outside. And that's another important thing as well for self-care, even just fresh air for yourselves.
Well, I want to thank you very much, ladies, for your advice and your input this week. I'd like to thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the studio next week. Have a wonderful evening.